Did you know there are virtually no actual atheists, and they're all Christians in disguise? That's the claim made by today's religious nutbag, because these people have no clue whatsoever. And that's not exactly a surprise. So let's get to it. The religious seem to have a lot of crazy ideas, and today we've got part of a podcast with Peter Rollins as guest, and Peter is going to tell us that only Christians can be true atheists. Yeah, you heard that one right. And that's only because Peter has no clue about atheism or about human nature, because he's got a goal in mind and truth has no part in his equation. So let's go watch this whole idea fall apart, because what else is it going to do? So off we go.
Well, my argument is there's very few atheists, right? There's very few atheists. I did a talk a few years ago in Belfast to a group of about 70 or 80 people who, almost all of them, got them to put up their hand, said, who here is an atheist? Most of them put up their hand.
Well, this isn't starting out well, is it? It's really starting to look like argument by anecdote. That and the very painful reality that this guy probably has no idea what atheism is, which is absurdly common when you really think about it. Now, I have no idea if this supposed talk ever actually happened. After all, lying for the Lord is a tried and true apologetic method, and we've found many apologists just making up stories to convince a religiously gullible audience in the past. But as I said, I have no idea if that's the case, so we'll just assume for the sake of argument that it did, and that he's relating the experience as he had it from his particular religious perspective. That doesn't mean that's actually what happened. We'll have to see how this plays out.
Right? And I said, seriously, you don't believe in gods or angels or fairies or anything? No. Right. So then I asked them to do something. I said, listen, can you get out your mobile phones and bring up the picture of someone you love? Fair enough, right? And then I took out of my pocket a piece of paper and I said, this piece of paper, this is a satanic curse from like the 1400s. And it's a thing that you say over somebody. You have to have somebody in your mind or some object that they've touched. And then you say this curse over them and bad things will happen to them.
Yeah, I can see where this is going. Now, I'll let him make a fool of himself in a second, but I'll just say I can see why this isn't going to go the way he thinks that it should, and why he's going to completely misunderstand the response. Again, assuming this actually happened in the first place. I will also say that I am not one of those people, if I'm reading any of this right. And you might say, well, that's an awful lot of ifs. And you'd be right. I've just seen this kind of abject dishonesty and delusion a lot. And once you know what to look for, it's usually not that hard to pick up what they seem to be putting down. You can usually see it coming. And that's kind of unfortunate. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always right about it, and when I'm wrong, I admit it, and I will in this case as well, but it's starting to feel very, very familiar. Like the fact that these atheists don't do what he thinks that they should. That proves they aren't really atheists at all. And that's almost certainly not true.
So I said, so who wants to come up and say the curse over the person that they've got on their mobile phone? And virtually nobody moved. Nobody moved. And I was like, listen, I'm not telling you what I believe. You guys don't believe any of this stuff, so it's easy.
Which is why I do it. I don't believe in any of that crap. I'd be the first one up on that stage cursing absolutely everyone, including myself, just to tell this guy that he's a complete idiot. Anytime a Christian starts asking me to damn my immortal soul, and that comes up a lot, I deny the Holy Spirit immediately. Why? Because it doesn't matter. It's stupid. I have absolutely no fear whatsoever that these things are actually real. And that's not true of all atheists. It's not that they believe it, it's that these things have been forced so deeply into their heads that it's really, really hard to get it out again. It's why a lot of atheists suffer for years and years and years after their deconversions with the concept of hell. Childhood indoctrination screws people up. It's the same reason why a lot of people who have changed religions later in life, they won't go back and insult their former religion. They don't, for example, deny the Holy Spirit if they're now Buddhist or Scientologist or whatever, because that fear is really hard to get rid of, even if you don't openly believe it anymore. And that proves nothing but the damaging effect of indoctrination. There are other reasons too, but we'll wait to get to those.
Nobody moved because, of course, deep down, there's still God is unconscious. This is what people don't realize. We don't know what we believe.
And that's complete bullshit. I know exactly what I believe or don't believe in this instance. But just because people don't want to get up on a stage and play your silly game, that doesn't mean that they really believe in your imaginary friend. A lot of people are nervous about doing things in front of a crowd. A lot of people just think you're an idiot and are waiting for you to prove it. There's a subconscious effect in humans where if someone seems to be in a confident leadership position, you tend to shut up and listen. If you get someone up on a stage or in front of a room speaking confidently, and most people in any given audience, they're not going to challenge that, it doesn't really matter if what they're saying is true or not. Most people are just going to be quiet and listen, both out of politeness and maybe a little fear. It's part of human nature, programmed into us by evolution. It doesn't mean they're Christians, though.
So first of all, we don't know what we believe. This is a very bizarre thing. When I came to America, people thought they knew what they believed. It's like almost like the one thing I know is what I believe. No, you don't. I know people who don't believe in ghosts, but as soon as it's nighttime and they hear a tapping on the window, they put their duvet over, they cover their head and think it's like Harry Potter protection Phil, right? I know people who have all sorts of beliefs, but they don't think that they love their mother and then dream about shouting at them. They actually don't love their mother. They're pretending. Our consciousness is basically a defense against seeing what we believe.
No. And this is where we see a lot of theists confident that they know more about other people than those people know about themselves. It's why we get constantly told that we believe in God because it says so in the Bible, even though we don't. This is just a psychological defense mechanism on the part of the religious. The human mind is not black and white. We like to think we're 100% in charge of it, but we're really not. Just because we make conscious decisions, that doesn't mean there aren't subconscious factors influencing our thoughts. There are lots of people out there with utterly irrational fears that they have absolutely no conscious control over. That doesn't mean that they have chosen to be afraid of those things consciously. Yet, we know that the religious don't understand much of anything, ever. They are looking for a justification for their beliefs. They don't care if their beliefs are true or false, so long as they make them feel good. And part of that process is trying to infer that everyone around them actually believes what they do. We're just lying. We just want to sin. Whatever nonsense you can come up with, that's fine with them. And that's not rational. But these are not rational people. And Peter has kind of got a problem, if you notice.
That's why you have to listen to your dreams. That's why you have to do psychoanalysis, because we're actually very protected against what we believe. And I'm actually saying only the Christian can be a true atheist.
Which definitionally makes no sense at all. Because a Christian believes in a particular God and an atheist does not. Now, Former Christian, sure, maybe. But these people don't want to think that anyone can really leave their faith. We're not really changing our mind. We're not really rejecting their beliefs. We're just being led astray, and we can come back. Except most of us don't want to. As a former Christian myself, I can say that there is no way, knowing what I know today, that I would ever go back to Christianity. At least not without some damn good proof that the Christian God was actually real in the objective reality that we all share. I'm not interested. I don't have a God-shaped hole in my heart. But these Christians, they aren't trying to talk to us. They aren't trying to understand where we're coming from. They're just terrified little children hiding in their own brains saying, I'm right, 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 right.
That the Christian experience is the experience of the loss of that God in order to find a resurrection, which we haven't got to yet, might not get to in this podcast. But you see what I'm saying is that somebody might say in response to that I got that idea from Darren Brown, the illusionist. He did this. He did a thing called How to Convert an Atheist. And he got people who didn't believe in ghosts, put them alone in a room, and some people started to freak out.
But that doesn't mean they believe in ghosts. That means they are open to the power of suggestion, which is what illusionists are really good at. Now, you can see this quite easily by taking people and having them play scary video games or watching scary movies. They know that the ghosts and the monsters, those aren't real. But put them into a situation with the right external stimulus, and they're going to jump anyhow. It's evolutionarily programmed into us. The illusionist isn't holding out an actual ghost. He's making the suggestion of a ghost, then putting people into an entirely unrelated situation designed to be scary, and claiming that the reaction was caused by a belief in ghosts. And that's really kind of dumb when you think about it, because nobody comes out the other end suddenly believing in ghosts. I'm willing to bet that if we took either of these guys, we did the same thing with something that they don't believe, they'd both have the same kind of reaction. They don't care about what's really going on. They're just trying to rationalize their blind faith.
That's why you can always convert someone to a superstitious God, because often it's down there unconsciously. As soon as you get them anxious, it comes up. Now, that's a superstitious notion of God. The idea that there's a God in heaven that would curse someone you love because of something I printed out off the internet. And by the way, changed to make it sound more scary. I even said to one of my mates in the room, I said, Adam, you do it. You're completely secular. You say it over me. Say it over me. And he wouldn't even do that. He doesn't even like me.
I do it. I do it right now. I do it over myself because I know it's nonsense. It doesn't affect me at all. But I've been gone from religion for so long that none of that actually bothers me anymore. It did for a while, way back when I had just given up religion, but that was decades and decades ago, and it's why these people are picking and choosing their audience for the effect they want to achieve. And this is really where we have to start wondering why. Did he do it because he knew how his audience would react? Was it done to make a point that he could spin into his religious narrative? Possibly, probably in fact, because these people do it over and over and over again, so they have stories to tell their followers, at which point they're just being dishonest. Or if they're surprised by the outcome, they're just dumb. We know why these things actually happen, and the religious, in particular, would rather assign their own emotionally comforting explanation to things than to actually deal with reality. They're not really concerned what's going on. Choose which option you think is most valid, because neither one is really anything to be proud of.
Like, there you go. That's what I mean by atheism is not atheist enough, and that you have to experience existentially the crucifixion in your body. My God, why have you forsaken me? That's the Christian event. And only after that can we really, I think, grasp what faith is.
Not so much, because if you really go look at it, It isn't just Christianity that has that effect. Ex-Muslims often have the same kind of existential dread over Allah. Ex-Hindus do the same thing. Most people raised in a particular religious paradigm, they will have some discomfort over leaving the religion behind. So, are you going to say that it isn't just Christianity that has that effect? Of course not, because Peter here isn't honest. Or it's just never occurred to him that it's not just his religion that does that. If you're told a scary story about a monster in the woods and then you're put out in the woods alone, you're going to jump as soon as you hear a noise. It has nothing at all to do with the monster being real. It's a perfectly natural and normal human reaction to stress. But that doesn't win converts and it doesn't pay the bills, so people like Peter here, that's not how they're going to spin their narrative, is it?
So, in some sense, is what you're saying then, is when you're saying, hey mate, give atheism a crack. When people look at this and they're thinking you're pushing atheism, it almost sounds like you're saying, yeah, give it a crack, but you're not really going to get there. You're almost saying it's so hard to be a true atheist. Even when you're trying to be an atheist, what you're saying is what you're more likely to uncover is your deeper belief and a more substantive belief or faith. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and that's negative. That's the final. Yes, I'm going to basically say.
And that's where it ends. Seriously, who the hell is cutting this video? And why does this happen in so many Christian videos? I don't know, you tell me. It's blatant incompetence on display. It's also why they don't want to talk to atheists like me. It's why they don't want to talk to anyone who has been beyond their religion for a lot of years, because we just don't care about your stupid shit. We are not easy to manipulate. It's why, and I keep pointing this out, they don't want to talk to us, and the second they find out that we're not going to fall for their crap, they go running for the hills. Honest inquiry doesn't work like that. I'm not really concerned with how they want to spin things. I care what things actually are, and what things actually are, that isn't emotionally comforting to the religiously gullible. So they go off on a wild tangent in search of emotional comfort, not objective fact. Here we have a podcast aimed at dumb people, and they have dumb content on it. Why is that a surprise? Here are people who desperately want to believe in their imaginary friend in the sky, so they provide people who are telling them that belief in their imaginary friend in the sky is good. That keeps people tuning in. Welcome to Basic Marketing 101. You appeal to your audience, and your audience keeps listening. But that's not what I'm after. I am not part of their audience. I care about the truth. That's all I'm chasing. Anyone who wants to listen, they're welcome to. I can't stop them. Anyone who doesn't want that, well, that's up to them. This isn't about making a buck or gaining a following. It's about exposing stupidity wherever it hides. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of stupidity out there. It's why it's so damn easy to find.
Bum